Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, coin lovers and treasure seekers. You've just stepped into the world of hidden history, forgotten currency, and unbelievable surprises. If you're holding on to some old coins, you might want to pay very close attention today, because we're diving deep into a coin that might look small, but could be worth more than a luxury car, a down payment on a house, or even an entire college education. Today, we're exploring one of the most iconic coins in American history, the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny. This coin is more than just a piece of copper. It's a window into a past era, over 100 years old, minted during a time when the world was at war, America was changing fast, and pennies still had power. Imagine it, the year is 1917. Woodrow Wilson is president. The United States has just entered World War I. Jazz is being born in New Orleans. A loaf of bread costs just a few cents, and a penny could actually buy you something meaningful. In the middle of this transformation, the U.S. Mint produced a humble little coin that would one day become a true collector's dream. The 1917 Lincoln wheat penny was part of a series that started in 1909, the first time a U.S. coin featured a real person's portrait, none other than President Abraham Lincoln. It was a revolutionary design choice at the time. Until then, coins mostly displayed symbolic images like Lady Liberty. But with Lincoln, the mint broke tradition to honor a leader who had defined a generation and saved the Union. Take a close look at the 1917 penny and you'll see why it still captures attention today. On the front, Lincoln's dignified profile looks to the right. The word Liberty is inscribed to his left, and the date, 1917, is stamped proudly to his right. If the coin was minted in Denver or San Francisco, you'll see a small D or S under the date, but the Philadelphia version, which was the most common, had no mint mark at all. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted by a beautifully simple yet iconic design. Two stalks of wheat curve upward on each side, framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America. Just above that sits the phrase, E pluribus unum, Latin for, out of many, one, a motto that perfectly captures the American spirit of unity and diversity. Now, why does this coin matter so much to collectors? First, there's the age. Any coin that has survived more than a century in decent condition is already interesting. But the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny holds even more appeal because it was minted in large quantities during a pivotal time in American history. Yet very few of these coins have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. And those that have? They're worth serious money. Condition is everything in the world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. Most 1917 pennies out there show heavy wear. They've passed through thousands of hands, spent decades in drawers or piggy banks, and suffered the ravages of time. But a select few have been protected, stored in mint rolls, forgotten in collections, or preserved by sheer luck. These high-grade examples, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, are incredibly rare, and here's something that really gets collectors excited: certain varieties of the 1917 penny come with minting errors. Double die obverse, for example, are coins where the date or lettering was stamped twice by accident during production, creating a visible doubling effect. These errors weren't caught at the time, making the surviving examples unique and far more valuable today. Now let's talk numbers. If you were to find a 1917 Lincoln wheat penny in average circulated condition, it might fetch you a few bucks, still more than face value. But as the condition improves, so does the value. A lightly circulated coin can bring in $20 to $50. An uncirculated coin, especially one with sharp details and original luster, can jump into the hundreds or even thousands. But here's where it gets really exciting. In the world of rare coins, there's always that one unbelievable story, that one coin that shatters expectations. And yes, that story exists for the 1917 penny as well. In one extraordinary case, a 1917 Lincoln wheat penny in immaculate, uncirculated condition, graded at an exceptional mint state, was sold at auction for $145,000. That's right, one single penny, originally worth just 1 cent, eventually sold for $145,000. Unbelievable? Maybe. But in the world of coin collecting, it's very real. So the next time you're going through old jars of change, cleaning out your grandparents' attic, or browsing through a flea market table, take a second look at any old pennies you come across. That little copper coin might not just be history, it might be a fortune in disguise. In this video, we're digging into a coin that's been sitting quietly in jars, drawers, and dusty boxes for decades, but it might just be your ticket to something huge. We're talking about the United States 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1945, a coin born in the shadow of World War II, during a time of massive global change and national pride. Now let's set the stage. It's 1945. The Second World War is finally drawing to a close. Soldiers are returning home. The country is shifting from wartime production to peacetime prosperity. Victory parades are flooding the streets, and amidst all this, the U.S. Mint is busy producing millions upon millions of coins to fuel an economy that's getting ready to boom. Among those coins is the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, a simple piece of copper, but one packed with history. At first glance, it looks like just another penny. But in the world of coin collectors, this small copper coin is anything but ordinary. Let's start with the design. The front of the coin proudly features the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Sculpted by Victor David Brenner, Lincoln's profile is etched in brilliant detail, showing the strength and humility of a man who led the nation through its darkest days. Above him, the word Liberty sits just to the left, and to the right, the date, 1945. Just below the date, you may see a tiny letter, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. If there's no letter, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Now flip it over and you'll see the classic wheat-back design, two stalks of wheat curved inward, framing the phrases, 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, in small lettering, is the phrase, E pluribus unum. Together, these design elements form one of the most iconic coin styles in American history, the Lincoln wheat penny. But let's talk about what makes the 1945 wheat penny stand out from the rest. To start, the 1945 penny is one of the last of its kind to be made entirely out of copper. During the war years, the U.S. experimented with steel cents due to copper shortages, but by 1945, the traditional composition was back, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. However, wartime conditions meant that minting processes weren't always perfect. That's where things get interesting. While the majority of 1945 pennies were made in huge quantities, collectors are always hunting for those rare versions that slipped through the cracks, coins with minting errors, strange strikes, double dies, or unusual color variations. Some have off-center strikes, while others feature weak details or repunched mint marks. These unique errors, especially when combined with high-grade, uncirculated condition, can transform an ordinary coin into something extremely valuable. So, how can you tell if your 1945 wheat penny is special? Start with condition. If your coin has sharp details, full lines in the wheat stalks, and original luster, it could be considered mint state. Coins that haven't been touched or circulated are incredibly rare for this year, especially since most of them were used in everyday transactions back in the 40s and 50s. These pennies were passed through countless hands, spent on candy, gum, or newspapers. Few were saved in pristine condition. Now add a mint error to that mint state condition, and you've got something truly remarkable. Some rare examples show dramatic doubling of the date or lettering, something known as a double die. Others show what's called a die break, where the coin has a raised crack-like line due to a flaw in the die used during minting. These rare characteristics turn a regular penny into a collector's gem, and here's where things get even more exciting. Imagine coming across a coin like this, maybe in an old family coin collection, maybe in change from a yard sale, or just tucked away in a forgotten drawer. At first glance, it's just a copper coin from the 1940s. But under the right circumstances, with the right mint mark, a flawless finish, and a unique error, it could be worth more than most people would ever guess. You might be wondering, alright, but what's the real deal here? What kind of money are we talking about? Well, here it comes. In an incredible and verified sale, a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny in pristine, mint state condition, with a rare and well-documented error, was sold at auction for an astonishing total of $95,000. That's right. 1 penny. $95,000. So the next time you're sorting through old change, don't just toss that wheat penny aside. Take a closer look. You could be holding history in the palm of your hand, history that could turn out to be more valuable than you ever imagined. Today's story takes us back in time to one of the most talked about and widely collected pennies in the world. It's small, it's copper, and it just might be a hidden fortune sitting unnoticed in your collection. We're talking about the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that seems common on the surface, but under the right conditions, could be one of the most valuable pieces of American currency you'll ever come across. Now let's rewind the clock to 1944. World War II is in full swing. The world is in turmoil, but there's hope in the air. The Allies are gaining ground, and at home, Americans are doing everything they can to support the war effort. Factories are producing tanks and planes instead of cars. Food is rationed. Scrap metal drives are everywhere, and even coinage is affected. During this time, the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure to supply enough coins for the economy, which was operating at full throttle. In 1943, just a year earlier, pennies had actually been made from steel coated in zinc, because copper was needed for ammunition and equipment. Those 1943 steel cents were short-lived, and by 1944, the mint returned to using copper. But this wasn't just any copper, it was recycled shell casings from the battlefield. That's right, your 1944 penny might literally be made from wartime materials. Now, let's talk design. The 1944 penny still featured the classic image of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's face, serious and thoughtful, appears on the obverse, the front of the coin, with the word "Liberty" to the left, the year 1944 to the right, and the phrase, "In God We Trust," curving across the top. Look just beneath the date and you might find a tiny letter, D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or no letter at all if it was minted in Philadelphia. On the reverse, you'll find the signature wheat ears design that gives this coin its name, the Lincoln wheat penny. 1 cent stands tall and proud between two stalks of wheat, with "United States of America" just beneath it. At the top, the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, reminds us of the unity this coin represents. Now, while hundreds of millions of 1944 pennies were produced, most were heavily circulated. They were used for decades to buy candy, newspapers, soda, and everything in between. Because of this, many of them today are scratched, dull, or worn down from years of use. So what makes some of these coins so incredibly special? It all comes down to two factors, condition and rarity. Let's start with condition. The value of any coin skyrockets when it is in uncirculated, mint state condition. That means no scratches, no fading, and all of the original details intact, like Lincoln's hair, the fine lines in the wheat, and the luster that shines when you tilt it in the light. Very few 1944 pennies exist in this perfect state because they were meant to be spent, not saved. But beyond condition, there's something else that really catches the eyes of collectors: mint errors and variations. You see, not all 1944 pennies were created equally. Some left the mint with mistakes, errors that were never supposed to happen. And those errors? They're what collectors dream about. Some 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on steel planchets left over from 1943, instead of the copper planchets used in 1944. These 1944 steel cents are extremely rare and valuable. Others may have doubling on the date or lettering, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. These rare errors and anomalies instantly increase the value of a coin, sometimes dramatically. There's also a fascination with mint marks. For example, the 1944 S penny, made in San Francisco, and the 1944 D penny, minted in Denver, each have their own collector following. But even among these, there are coins with subtle differences, shifts in die alignment, font thickness, or spacing, that set them apart. So you might be asking yourself, how do I know if my 1944 penny is worth more than just 1 cent? First, check the condition. If it looks shiny, detailed, and flawless, that's a great start. Second, look for mint marks and signs of unusual errors. If something looks off, like doubling or odd shapes in the lettering, that might be a rare variety. And lastly, if you're lucky enough to have your coin professionally graded by experts and it comes back as mint state or higher, especially with a documented error, you could be sitting on something amazing, which brings us to the big moment. Some of the rarest 1944 Lincoln wheat pennies, in pristine mint condition and featuring unique errors, have stunned collectors and made headlines. In one documented case, an exceptionally rare and flawless 1944 penny, minted perfectly, preserved for decades, and featuring a standout error, was auctioned for a truly jaw-dropping price. That one humble 1-cent coin was sold for a staggering total of $98,000. That's right. 1 cent $98,000. So the next time you're cleaning out an old drawer, helping a grandparent sort through a coin jar, or browsing through a flea market, don't skip over the wheat pennies. Especially the ones from 1944. You never know what you might be holding in your hand. It might be more than history, it might be a fortune. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the last wheat pennies ever made. It's a coin that many people overlook, but a few lucky collectors have found versions of it that could change their lives. We're talking about the 1957 Lincoln wheat penny, a small, copper coin that could be hiding a big secret. Now, most people wouldn't think twice about tossing a 1957 penny into a change jar. After all, it's not ancient, it's not silver, and it's not flashy. But in the world of coin collecting, age doesn't always determine value. It's all about rarity, condition, and sometimes, even the tiniest mistakes made during production. Let's jump back in time to 1957. America was booming. It was the era of Elvis Presley, drive-in movies, and tail-finned Cadillacs. The country was in the middle of the post-war golden age. Suburbs were growing, television was changing the way people lived, and kids were spending their allowance on baseball cards and candy, with pennies just like the one we're talking about today. The 1957 Lincoln wheat penny was minted in two main places, Philadelphia and Denver. If your penny has no mint mark, it was minted in Philadelphia. If you see a tiny D under the date, then your coin was made in Denver. Both versions were made in high numbers, hundreds of millions of them rolled off the presses. That's why at first glance, this coin doesn't seem rare. But as always in the coin world, the devil is in the details. Now let's talk design. On the obverse, the front, you've got that iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln. His portrait had already been gracing the 1-cent coin since 1909, and by 1957, it was a beloved classic. Surrounding him are the words, "In God We Trust," along the top, "Liberty" on the left, and the date 1957 on the right. Just above that crucial mint mark, flip the coin over and you'll find the wheat reverse, the legendary wheat ears curving in from both sides to frame the bold 1 cent and United States of America. Above it all is the national motto, E pluribus unum. This wheat design would only last 2 more years, as it was retired in 1959 in favor of the Lincoln Memorial reverse. So 1957 is among the last of the true Wheaties. But what makes this common coin potentially so valuable? It comes down to condition and the fascinating world of mint errors. Most 1957 pennies were spent, tossed around, and worn down. They went from pocket to pocket for decades. But once in a while, someone saved one, maybe in a collection, maybe tucked away in a coin roll that was never opened. If that coin stayed untouched, it might still shine with its original copper luster. These untouched, uncirculated examples are what collectors call mint state. And mint state coins are where things get interesting. Now throw in the possibility of a minting error, like a double die, an off-center strike, a repunched mint mark, or even a coin that was accidentally struck on the wrong metal, and suddenly, you're in a whole different ballgame. These types of errors are not easy to find. They're like the golden ticket in the world of pennies. But when they do surface, collectors are willing to pay eye-watering prices to own a piece that no one else has. You might be surprised to know that even slight doubling on the words "Liberty" or the date can increase the coin's value significantly. Add that to a mint state grade, meaning the coin looks nearly perfect under magnification, and you've got yourself a serious prize. Error coins are fascinating because they are accidents that turn into rare works of art, valued precisely because of their imperfections. And remember, coins from 1957 with strong strike details, no visible wear, and vibrant color are already collectible. But if your 1957 penny also has something unusual, a misprint, a rare metal composition, or another abnormality, you could be holding something that's incredibly rare. So what's the top end of the value spectrum? Well, while the average 1957 penny might be worth just a few cents or a couple dollars in circulated condition, and even mint state versions can range into the low hundreds, there are exceptions. And these exceptions can make headlines. In one jaw-dropping case, a flawless 1957 Lincoln wheat penny, perfectly preserved, visually stunning, and struck with a rare mint error, was sold for an amount that shocked even seasoned collectors. That single penny, just 1 cent in face value, ended up being sold for a grand total of $88,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 1-cent coin, sold for $88,000. So if you've got a 1957 penny lying around, don't overlook it. Get yourself a magnifying glass, check the date, look for that mint mark, and study it closely. You could be sitting on a small copper coin with a very big story. Today, we're going to shine the spotlight on a coin that most people would walk right past, drop in a vending machine, or toss into a tip jar without a second thought. But for the trained eye, and lucky collector, it could be a hidden fortune. We're talking about the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, if you've ever held a handful of old pennies, chances are you've come across a wheat penny or two. They're easy to spot by the iconic wheat stalks on the reverse, and they were made from 1909 until 1958. But 1954? That's a year with stories, secrets, and surprises all wrapped up in a copper coin. Let's set the stage. It's 1954. America is post-World War II strong. The economy is booming. Rock and roll is just starting to echo through radios. Gas is 22 cents a gallon, and the average house costs just over $10,000. It was a time of optimism, of change, and while all of this was happening, the U.S. Mint was producing coins that would one day become prized pieces of history. The 1954 Lincoln wheat penny was produced at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia version has no mint mark. If your coin has a tiny D under the date, it was minted in Denver. If it shows an S, it came from San Francisco. Each mint had its own quirks, its own production challenges, and those variations matter to collectors. Now let's talk about the design. The obverse of the coin features a proud, stoic Abraham Lincoln, facing right. It's a design by Victor David Brenner that had already become legendary by the time this penny was minted. Surrounding Lincoln are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," on the left, and the date, 1954, on the right. Just below the date is the mint mark. If there is one, flip the coin over, and there they are, the 2 iconic wheat ears that give the coin its nickname, standing tall on either side of 1 cent and United States of America. Above it, the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. It's a beautiful, balanced design that has stood the test of time and made this series a collector's favorite. So what makes the 1954 version so interesting? After all, these pennies were made in large numbers, hundreds of millions were struck. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 71 million. The Denver Mint added another 251 million. Even San Francisco turned out over 100 million. On the surface, it doesn't sound rare, right? But here's where things get fascinating. First of all, survival in pristine condition is extremely rare. These coins were meant to be spent. They were tossed in pockets, dropped in gutters, rubbed smooth in everyday use. Most of the 1954 wheat pennies you'll find today are scratched, dull, or worn down beyond recognition. So finding one in mint state, what collectors call MS, like MS-65 or MS-67, is incredibly rare. These coins still glow with their original luster and show crisp, detailed designs, but condition is only half the story. The real game changer comes with minting errors, those unexpected surprises from the production line that create truly unique coins. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and coins struck on the wrong metal blanks. These errors turn a common coin into a collector's dream. Let's say you find a 1954 D penny with a repunched mint mark, where the D was stamped more than once, creating a shadow-like effect. That tiny detail could multiply its value by hundreds. Or imagine spotting a coin where the date is doubled, with visible ghosting behind the numbers. That's what collectors call a double die, and those are incredibly rare and sought after. Even more dramatic are the few coins that were mistakenly struck on steel planchets, metal blanks left over from 1943. These are legendary rarities, and only a handful have ever been confirmed. If you ever find a 1954 penny that sticks to a magnet, stop everything. You could be holding a one-of-a-kind anomaly worth a fortune. So how do you know if your coin is valuable? First, check the mint mark. Look closely for doubling, repunching, or unusual shapes. Second, study the coin's color and shine. Original copper luster is a big deal. Third, get your coin professionally graded if you think it might be something special. That's how rare finds are authenticated and valued. Now, here's where things really get exciting. While most 1954 pennies in average circulated condition are worth just a few cents, or maybe $1 or $2 to the right buyer, there are exceptions. Rare varieties and flawless examples in mint state condition have fetched eye-popping prices at auction, and in one truly extraordinary case, a 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, preserved in near-perfect mint condition and featuring an extremely rare minting error, was sold for an astonishing amount. The kind of price that makes you look at every penny in your change jar a little differently. That single, copper coin was sold for a grand total of $83,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. One penny. $83,000. So before you toss that old wheat penny aside, take a closer look. It might not just be an old coin. It might be a historical artifact. A collector's prize. A hidden jackpot waiting to be discovered. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more hidden treasure stories, and hit the bell so you never miss the next rare coin that could be hiding right in your pocket. Until next time, keep looking, keep collecting, and who knows, your next penny might just be worth $83,000.